Okay. Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for coming. I'm Camille Kalatasti. I'm the Dean for Institutional Research and Assessment and Graduate Studies. Okay, and we have some music playing that represents the departments that we're going to be talking about today, and you'll hear more about that in a moment. This event is in a series of sessions that we host here at Berklee to share information with the Berklee community and with faculty and leaders at our partner schools around the world and the Valencia campus. This session is being live streamed and also recorded, so people are able to watch it again later and join us from the virtual world. Many people worked hard to get this technology together. Special thanks to Mary McClory, Ray Soul, David Hughes, Reggie Lofton, and the production team. While people are enjoying their lunch here, and we are sorry that you cannot join us for the meal over in the virtual space, we'll be talking a bit about today's topic, and our goal is to finish about 10 minutes before the hour so that people who have joined us here on campus are able to get to their next class. Today's session focuses on Berklee's music technology majors for our Bachelor of Music students, in particular the major in music production and engineering and the major in electronic production and design. We'll learn about key features of each program, key differences between the two programs, and how students who begin their studies here at Berklee and students who are transferring to Berklee from some of our partner institutions can join these programs and have success in these programs. Today's presenters are Rob Jaczko and Dan Thompson, Chair and Assistant Chair of the Music Production and Engineering Department, and Michael Bierylo, Chair of the Electronic Production and Design Department. So please join me in welcoming them.
Thank you.
So we're going to be doing this session a little bit differently than our usual format for those of you who have been following along. This will be much more of a moderated discussion than presentations. We thought that would be the best way to introduce these topics. So I'd like to begin, and I'll start with Rob, by asking each of our chairs to tell you a little bit about themselves, how long they've been at Berklee, and a little bit about their background. Rob?
Good morning, good afternoon, depending on what time zone you're in. My name is Rob Jaczko. I'm the Chair of Music Production and Engineering here at Berklee in Boston. I joined the faculty in 1995 and became Assistant Chairman of MP&E in 1997, and I've been Chair since 2000. So we've had a nice run in the administration here. I did start as a student at Berklee, however. I came 2 weeks after graduating high school. I was 17 in 1979 and graduated the last graduating class of the audio program, which was the year before MP&E as we know it began in the fall of '83. I graduated in the spring of '83 under audio. So I've had a long vantage point on how we teach technology here at the college, and certainly enjoy moving the ball forward with my colleague Dan Thompson.
Great.
Yes, thank you, Rob. My name is Dan Thompson. I'm the Assistant Chair of Music Production Engineering. Actually, Rob and I started the same year, the same month, in January of '95. And I also went to Berklee as a student. I came here direct from Harvard. I just graduated studying music there, and initially came to Berklee to study jazz guitar, and ended up graduating with a degree in MP&E. So kind of came through that route. And I also started as a part-time faculty, became full-time in 1998. And then became assistant chair in the early 2000s, and been working with Rob ever since.
Fantastic.
Michael Bierylo, Chair of Electronic Production and Design. I share a little bit of the same trajectory. I started at Berklee in January of 1995. I remember
Really?
seeing you guys in the halls, and we were all newcomers then. I came to Berklee after I was a student here, And I also went through the recording program here. We share a common professor in Mr. Joe Hostetter. So we go back a ways. But when I came to Berklee, I was in Boston. I was a freelance engineer, producer, composer, guitarist. I was a touring musician. I had a very active life in music. And gradually that life kind of morphed into the life of the academy. And in 2012, I became the chair of the Electronic Production and Design Department.
Great.
Wow, it's been 5 years already.
Well, thank you all. It's great to learn a little bit more about you and for others to learn about you. Our next question, I've asked our presenters to describe their programs. What are the important aspects of each program? What is key information for people to know? And how do they see their two departments as different from each other? So I think we're going to be starting, this time we'll go in the opposite order. We'll start with Michael Bierylo, who will tell us about the Electronic Production and Design Department.
Thanks, Camille. So our pedigree goes back to the mid-late 80s when we started out as the Music Synthesis Department. And the department was actually the first place on the planet where you could go and get a college degree in working with synthesizers, hence the name Music Synthesis. And as time progressed, we really embraced technologies as they became available. In 1991, we had sound tool systems in our labs. In 1993, we had Pro Tool systems in our labs. And the major has really kind of grown from this core of sound synthesis to embrace all sorts of different types of technologies. And so right now, we do things, electronic music, we do sound design, we do some programming, and we do live performance. Those are really kind of 4 areas of interest for the department. And so what I think I'll do is I'll just play a quick video clip that will give you some idea of what we do, and I'll see some of our students in action.
One of the biggest things that EPD is all about is just experimenting in whatever way you want.
The EPD major really embraces creativity, and I could be really faithful to my art.
Everybody who's in the major is really curious about sound, how to make sound, how to manipulate it, and how to process it.
Okay, so now what do you hear? Right now you should hear a sine wave, is that correct?
Yeah.
Okay, so then what happens when we do this?
We have people coming in as DJs, as EDM producers, but we have people coming in with backgrounds in classical music. We're stylistically agnostic.
The fact that EPD kind of throws all sorts of different types of people together to make a sweet project, I think that's one of the great benefits.
All these people work together, they share ideas, they collaborate with people around the college to create new types of music, new types of musical ideas. The program we have is really based in sound synthesis, but branches off into all sorts of areas of technology, from cutting-edge music production techniques to sound design techniques, all the way into things like circuit bending.
We're taking a toy that was from the 80s and kind of bringing it back to life.
0 plus 9 is 4.
There was no one specific thing I had to do. I could be a sound designer, I could be a producer, I could be a performer.
I have a wide range of skills, including programming, producing music, making audio for visual media.
He didn't want to just run the visuals, he wants to be able to control them and interact with them in real time. So he's using this controller here to sort of transform the processing visuals as part of the performance.
Electronic production and design is one of the 2 majors at Berklee that is in fact capped. You go through a process where you apply. People say, what's the best thing I can do to prepare to get into EPD? And I think the best thing that you can do is make electronic music. Learn the tools that you use to make that music as best as you can on your own. In the final semester in EPD, a student has a capstone course where they'll choose a project and they'll take the entire semester to produce this. This course is really designed to equip a student with the final piece in a portfolio of work that they can take out in the world and start their career.
I'm wearing a brainwave interface, so you'll hear the pitch of the chord change based on my meditation, and you'll hear the quality of the chord change from diminished across the board to major
There's also a lot of extracurricular stuff. A lot of my friends will make installations and work on their stuff outside of school. And I'm performing tonight for the Techno Rave Ensemble. My friend Zubin's a part of that installation with Nona Hendricks at MIT. So there's always cool stuff going on.
The only thing that's really a given in our field is that things will change. The software that you learn in school may not be around 5 years from now. So I think our students leave really well equipped to deal with the changes in technology.
We're taught a skill set that has really concrete and professional applications, but the overarching theme is just keep messing with it and experimenting, and you'll figure out what your sound is.
Now I can go out into the world and be prepared for whatever music technology job is thrown at me.
Find the students like us, the upper semester kids, and talk to us. Have a half-an-hour conversation about what you like to do and really see if EPD is for you.
There you have it.
Nice.
And,
Nice.
You can find, thank you guys. And that is on our website. And I think just about any information that you'd like to get about the major, EPD, MP&E, you'll find on our respective websites. And I think the video does a pretty good job of giving you an overall flavor of the department. It's a very broad-based technology major. And we have a core, that's a 20-credit core, that really is the foundation of what we do. There are classes in sound synthesis, audio production, and what we used to call MIDI production. The MIDI word seems to be coming out of favor these days. That's where we deal with making music, electronic music, and sequencers. And so from that core, we have 10 credits of electives, 5 2-credit classes. And so much of what you see here is what students are doing with those 10 elective credits. And as a major, it's really set up so that you can really kind of design the experience that you would like to have and get the material that you need to get yourself a career. So it's at one sense very rigorous, and at the other sense there's a lot of freedom in terms of the classes that you'll take.
Very good.
Great, thank
Gentlemen.
you. Let's hear about MP&E.
MP&E shares a lot of the same goals, I think, as EPD does in terms of embracing the tools and finding great music, great songs. We do focus in our project structures in collaborative teams. Much as in the real world, the traditional model that there is a producer of a project that handles the artistic and business sort of agenda of a project, working directly with an artist to shepherd the nugget of an idea to a finished product that hopefully could be a saleable product. And producers then would traditionally hire an engineer to work with them and handle the technicalities of the job. Microphones, studio choices, recording the instruments, mixing, overdubbing, etc. And we mimic our project structures in that way. So a student could be the producer at 2 o'clock in their production class, and yet their roles and responsibilities would be different than their identity at 4 o'clock, where they are in the engineering role, teamed up with another producer. When the program began as music production and engineering in 1983, the founder, Wayne Wadhams, who you're going to hear a little bit about in our intro video, had told the college prior to this that Berklee was doing it all wrong. It was the audio engineering major that I graduated under, and we taught engineering. It was about consoles and schematics and flowcharts and tape machines. And Wayne came to the administration in the early 80s and said, you guys don't have the vantage point correct. We need to teach engineering through the lens of production. In other words, there's no engineering for engineering's sake. It's always a tool towards an artistic goal. And when you say the words now, that's plainly obvious. And in fact, every institution that teaches some version of sound recording or our topics call it music production and engineering. They've embraced the name, and the concept is very strong. So we work in collaborative teams, largely in traditional large format recording studios, of which Dan is going to show us a little bit. But why don't we show our little intro video first, and I think you can get a flavor, especially seeing the EPD movie just now, of the difference between the cultures.
And just a little backdrop, this is a video of a trip that has become an annual trip where we bring students to some iconic recording destinations. In this case in London, we're looking at other places, Capitol in LA, maybe Cuba, and to work with well-known producers, working with artists and being immersed in that professional environment and learning the signature of that type of room. And you'll get the sense of the experience for the student to be immersed in that kind of environment.
So you'll see Abbey Road in London and Mark Knopfler, the guitar player for Dire Straits, British Grove, also in London.
I was an organist at the age of 10, and apparently somewhat talented, and I was offered a tour. And my parents said, absolutely not, you're going to school and becoming a lawyer or a doctor. And so I put the music away, but couldn't stay away from it. And then I saw the Beatles on TV, and I realized that although I could do the science, I loved the music.
So those are our students up there in the studio too.
I was young when I still felt the need to be someone. After all this time, I won't believe that something's wrong. Truth or dare your words, don't lose their edge, still whisper.
So a real masterclass type of setting where we're working in these iconic rooms and students are getting to see the techniques and hear these spaces, the ambience of these spaces.
My footsteps won't echo, it's been so long, I can't believe. After all I've seen, my footprints are fading. I could never run from you, it's hard when we all know that like a pharaoh.
This is Studio 3 at Abbey Road, better known as the Pink Floyd room. This is where they did Dark Side of the Moon.
It's hard when we all know you act like a pharaoh. I've become a part of you. Am I human? Am I hollow?
That's actually perfect for what I want. Ready?
So the full-length video is on YouTube and on our website. There's a second half, which in the interest of time, I will let you explore on your own. But I think you can get a feel for the types of rooms that our students work in. Our facilities at Berklee are mimicked after professional studios. And in fact, the purchasing philosophy has always been only purchase definitive tools. And that would include consoles and microphones, every appointment, so that if a student trained up in the craft here in Boston, that they would be able to move out into the world and have a seamless transition.
Just as an example, this particular room, the Shames Family Scoring Stage, these rooms are where we have our classes, and then in the evening from 6 p.m. to 6 a.m., it's entirely student-driven. So this is where the students are doing their work. This is also where we host one of our most collaborative classes, which is the Orchestral Recording Techniques class for MP&E majors that works with film scoring students who are writing charts and conducting them. Ensemble seats an orchestra of about 45 musicians in the room, and then our students wrangle the experiment, as it were, the sessions that really model the types of sessions that you would encounter anywhere in the real world.
Great. Thank you very much. So I'd like to talk a little bit about the application process. So each of these majors is a limited or capped major, and each of them have an additional process of application for students who have already been admitted to Berklee College of Music. And I just want to say that again. So of course, students need to apply and be admitted to Berklee College of Music through the regular admission process. And students who are interested in either of these two majors then need to complete an additional application process to join one of these majors. So I'd like to ask our speakers today to talk about what those processes are, what are sort of the timelines, why those processes exist, and maybe also to throw in some advice for people who are getting ready to apply, both students who begin their academic careers at Berklee and students who are transferring in. Now, I know that's a lot of questions at once, so I will pipe in and reinforce the questions as needed. So let's start with MP&E this time, and then we'll come back.
You take that?
Yeah, so
Sure.
what's the process and why?
Okay, so the
and
process.
How do you do it?
First of all, let's
earlier.
rewind. Why do we do this? We do not do this to be elitist or exclusive or keep anyone from enjoying the experience in MP&E. It is purely pragmatic. No matter how many recording studios we build, there are always twice as many applicants who want to fill the space. So we need some way of governing the resources. And part of the philosophy is that you need copious amounts of hands-on experience with this equipment in order to master it artfully. This is not something that can be done solely by watching videos or sitting in gigantic lecture classes. Most of our courses have a population of 8 students at a time. And as Dan showed you, in these facilities, the professional studios are the classrooms by day and our student project rooms by night. So to ensure the amount of hands-on time required, there is a process. And MP&E has balanced out now, running at about a 50% accept rate. So 1 out of every 2 applicants gets the dreaded no letter. In fact, most students can withstand 1 decline from MP&E and are, of course, encouraged to reapply in the following cycle with no penalty. And we tried to prioritize those students who've applied more than once to get in and keep their calendar at college moving forward. But it's just it's a matter of numerics, unfortunately, when we divide 22 hours a day and 7 days a week into the amount of available studio time. So the process is we have a website. You complete a little profile and answer 9 essay questions. These are non-tricky, non-quizzy questions. We're just trying to find out about our applicants as music technologists, as artists, as producers, what inspired them to make an application to MP&E, and we ask them some philosophical questions about their thoughts on technology and a good guess at maybe where their career trajectory might take them. So looking at the essays, then when we receive those essays, we schedule a personal interview, which I think is similar to what EPD does. And we meet with each applicant one-on-one and spend a period of time and make some notes in their dossier about the interaction. And the third and only objective element are a student's grades. So we require a minimum of 1 semester in the book of grades at Berklee, Boston. And we take a look at harmony, ear training, arranging, private lessons, labs, ensembles, all of the musical core that a freshman would be taking to understand 2 things. 1, that they're taking the enterprise of college seriously. This isn't just an extended party playing music away from home. And 2, more importantly, that a student is speaking the language of music. If you're going to move to Spain, it would behoove you to speak Spanish. If you want to be a record producer, you need to speak music deeply. So we look at the essays, the interview, and the academics as the 3 ingredients, and we render a decision for the upcoming semester.
Yeah, it's worth highlighting maybe the timing. We only run this process twice a year, in the fall and in the spring. The application is open for 5 weeks at the top of the semester. What that means is if you happen to be starting in summer, you need to realize that there is no summer process. So it's in fall, in spring, and in the spring we're making decisions about both the following summer as well as fall. In terms of when you can apply, if you are a first semester student on campus and you have transfer credits, you need at least 12 credits to be able to apply. You can apply in your first semester in that circumstance. And what will happen is that the committee will essentially defer your decision until your first semester grades have posted. And again, just to highlight what, or underline what Rob said, one of the reasons that the academic piece is important to us is that our curriculum and our project work is very collaborative. So someone who isn't taking care of business, getting things on time, booking studios, being organized, has the potential to really hijack someone else's experience as well. So it's very important that coming into the major, you're extremely collaborative and you're able to be well organized and to be able to help shepherd a team toward a musical goal.
Wonderful.
Great.
Thank you. And let's hear now about the electronic production design department. Michael?
So ours is very similar, and our application timelines are the same. We have an application that's in the fall and one in the spring. Spring, of course, is for entrance into the program in the summer or the following fall. And again, as well, it's really a matter of resources. The reason we have this application is we want to make sure everybody has opportunity to get lots of time with the gear and the facilities that they need. We have 4 production studios that get quite busy, and with 240 majors trying to get time in those studios, it's very, very, very highly coveted. So to really be fair to everybody in the major, we want to make sure that everybody has access to those facilities. The application that we run, again, is online. We have people do an essay. The essay is a little bit more open-ended, telling us about your background. But the one thing that's maybe different, I think we're requiring everybody to submit 2 pieces of their work. We want to hear their music, and we also want to have them talk about how the music was made. You can pretty much, when you hear somebody's track, you don't really know if they in fact made it or not, so that's one kind of question that we always have. But if somebody talks intelligently about what they did, it tells us one of 2 things. Number 1, that they made the track, and number 2, that they're engaged with technology to the level that they're thinking about it, they know what they're doing, and they're probably going to be a good candidate for the major. If somebody comes in and says, even if the track is pretty good, and they come and say, I make beats, that tells us, their level of commitment to the art and the technology. So a big part of what we're looking for is people who are creative, people who are already doing something with electronic music. And so we're not looking for necessarily fully formed artists, but people who are along the way. So typically, the successful applicants have started producing music electronically in high school. And they probably, by the time they get to the application period, have been doing it for 5 or 6 years. That said, we do get students who come in and maybe just started when they got to Berklee, and they show promise, and their grades are good, and they're worth a risk. So with us, I've seen a number of different scenarios with students, and one of the things I kind of pride the department is we take in all sorts of different students. You may not have the best grades, but if your music is slamming, you can get in the major. And we've seen some people just come in and blossom once they've found something at Berklee that they're committed to and passionate to. So that's it's a little bit of the profile of what we're looking for. We're looking for somebody who's got a little bit of a spark, knows what they're going to do with the technology. And that for us is the really important thing. If somebody, in the essay, we ask people to talk about what's your plan, what would you like to do when you leave college, and how will this major help you do that? And if somebody comes in and says, well, I need to know more about technology, I think I should be an EPD major, not a good candidate. But when somebody says, I'd like to leave, I'd like to do audio for games, and this is the real major at Berklee where I can learn to do that, it tells us that this person's done a little bit of homework and they know what we teach in the major. Mm-hmm. So I think for us, as you notice from the video, it's a little bit more broad-based. It's, we don't necessarily have a lot of studios that people say, oh, this is the major where I go to do stuff in a studio. So we really want to make sure that people coming into the major have a clear idea of what, in fact, we do. One of my favorite interview questions is when a student will come in, I'll ask them, so there are 10 elective credits in the major. What's maybe one of the electives that you're just dying to get into? And if somebody kind of finds out that they should have taken a look at the course catalog, it tells me something about their commitment and what how successful they may be in the major. So, so again, the application process is very simple, very straightforward. There's an interview, and then the faculty meet as a committee, and we really sort through And these are sometimes some pretty painful decisions because,
Definitely.
you know, we do see some students who are good prospects, but they just can't get in for one reason or another at this point. And that's why I say apply early and apply often.
Yeah.
So even, you know, if people, we ask people to apply even if they're not totally committed, but if they think they want to be an EPD major, it doesn't hurt if you make the application. If you get rejected in your second semester, you still will have time to apply again once you've pulled some stuff together, get in the major, and still graduate on time.
I think it'd be worth saying that, maybe, Michael, it's the same for you, that the MP&E grid is laid out as a 6-semester experience. But in function, by petition, seniors can request to compress their senior year requirements into 1 semester, effectively making the travel a 5-semester experience. So this can make up for the timeline should you have needed to apply more than once.
And we see some really great majors who didn't get in the first time. Some people just blossom. So I think that's one of the things that, to me, makes me feel really great, that I think, you know, if somebody's at Berklee and they really want to be an EPD major, chances are they'll be an EPD major. And you know, our grid is about 5 semesters to get through. It's really hard to compress that at all, but there are some, you know, exceptions made. So usually, you know, it's important to get in the major as early as you possibly can.
I would say, Camille, sorry to cut you off. One other distinction is that you have 10 elective credits and require 20 credits. We require 26 of the 30 credits, so we only have two credit classes as sort of free space, but students anecdotally take far more electives than just those that satisfy the final 4 credits. There's many things to be explored in the elective category.
Yeah. And all of those electives, of course, count as general electives toward your degree. So there's a lot of attractive curriculum. And in fact, we find students who can stay a bit longer to really partake in all of those mastering and orchestral recording and post-production. I mean, there's so many different topical areas that one could potentially explore.
Right, and I think too, with the electives, you know, we have approved specified electives that are EPD courses, but between the 2 majors, we have a number of MTech courses that are a little bit more broad-based and open to both majors. So, you know, we'll honor, let's say, the mastering class or Prince Charles' remix class, hip-hop production class. Those are all classes that really apply to the things that both of our majors are doing. And so we encourage people to kind of take those as general electives, and in some cases, we'll accept those as approved specified electives.
Okay, so I do want to emphasize a few of the points that were just made. And one that's very important is the length of time necessary to complete each of these majors. So at minimum, it's 5 semesters. And for the music production and engineering program, in the ideal, it's really 6 semesters. So that is very important for transfer students especially to know when they're coming here. If they expect to be through the major in 2 years or 4 semesters, that is not an option, but there are summer semesters and options. But it's very important once admitted to really sit down and go through very carefully what the projection is going to be for taking the courses to make sure students make the most of their time.
And follow the grids verbatim, because that is the roadmap in terms of prerequisites.
And then I would just like to ask our presenters again to talk a bit more about what transfer students can do to be prepared, and also what our partner schools can do to prepare students who are interested in these majors. So I'll start with Michael, and then we'll go over to Dan and Rob.
So I think, you know, for transfer students, it's important, number one, for our major to be involved in electronic music. And if your school has a program that has anything to do with music technology, the more you can learn at that level, the better off you'll be. You'll have to start at square one when you get into EPD. We do not have a policy of testing out of any of our courses. So we have people coming actually with a lot of coursework already in music technology, but they do need to take the full load of EPD courses. I would also, if you're at all interested in coming to Berklee and being in the department, to communicate with us very early on so we can get some idea of who you are, where you're coming from, and in some cases, you may be able to apply remotely before you get to the Berklee campus. That's not, a written policy at this point, but it's something that in the last few years I've done on a couple occasions. So I think, if you're coming from a transfer school, really think about what we're doing here, what your goals are, and then communicate, get in touch.
The other thing I strongly recommend, not only to transfer students, but to other students that come into either for advice or who are applying, one of the best things you can do here at Berklee is a dual major. Absolutely. And for transfer students in particular, because of the fact that you're coming in and you have a good, solid load of transfers that are coming through, what you don't want is to end up in a position where you run out of things to take. In other words, you have to be here because of the fact that there's a prerequisite structure and it's going to take you 5 or 6 semesters to get through the major. Having those transfer credits actually affords you the opportunity to go ahead and declare a dual major and be following those 2 grids concurrently and be done in the same amount of time that someone else might be doing just a single major. The dual majors really, if you think about, graduating and what you want to do next, it's one of the best ways to come out with a broad set of skills. Mating writing with production, for instance, really important, those things. Business with production. EPD and MP&E go really well together in terms of developing a broad set of skills that give you an excellent opportunity to really jump into any number of opportunities that present themselves.
I would say to answer what maybe our partner schools could be looking at as they're sending students to us would be to reckon those timelines of when we run our application processes internally and the fact that we need a semester of Berklee Boston grades in the book in order to be eligible to make that application. Now, again, if it's a transfer student that's coming with 12 or more credits, they can apply as soon as they get to Boston if it's in fall or in spring, not in summer. We don't do that. And then they'll get a disposition for their second semester, but in all cases recognizing that we sort of have to back time what their ambitions are. If we had a choice to stay in our institution abroad and arrive in Boston in summer, we'll know that you can't do anything about your MP&E or EPD application in the summertime. That next opportunity would happen in the fall. So it's a little tricky in terms of just reckoning someone's plans outside of here, but that would be something I would recommend to all of our partner institutions to understand that.
I would also say the websites, both EPD and MP&E, are really the first place to go to. Right. They're pretty comprehensive. They have all of the information about applying. They have information about the studios, the faculty, the curriculum, the grids. It really should be the first stop. And then, based on looking at that, you can direct questions to any one of us.
Yeah, the FAQ is very complete.
Mm-hmm. Especially the section called courses.
Exactly.
And along those same lines, do you recommend that students come to visit you as soon as they get to campus if they have an interest in your programs? Are there some courses they can take before entering that are helpful to them once in?
So everybody takes MTech 111, and that's really the point of entry for everybody at Berklee. I think for both of our departments, we find that a lot of students applying have tested out of MTech 111.
That's the Intro to Music Tech
Intro to
class.
Music Technology. So if you're able to test out of MTech 111, there's a whole range of music technology courses that you can take. Mm-hmm. You can take Accelerated Pro Tools, you can take a class in Logic, a class in Ableton Live, but that kind of gets you in the flow of Berklee Music Technology while you're waiting to apply. That's a really good thing. And I recommend that people don't come and see me. I recommend that they come and talk to students, talk to people who are already in the major about their experience, because those are the people who really know about what's going on in the major. I can certainly answer the technical questions that people may have, but that usually comes up closer to the application process. I also, when people actually are admitted to the program, I really want them to come and see me at the beginning of their time in the major so we can talk about their plan, a little bit about who they are and what they're going to be doing. I think one of the things that I've found that the sooner a student who's admitted to the major comes and has a conference with me, the smoother their ride is through the major. I get some students will come in their fourth semester in the major in big trouble for some sort of prerequisite or another, and these are very simple things that could have got dealt with.
Follow the map.
Follow the map, yeah.
I'd also say acoustics is a requirement ultimately for the major and satisfies the science requirement for the degree. It's a 3-credit class, so it takes a piece of the schedule. There are 2 flavors of acoustics, and we can split hairs and advise on one or the other, but they both satisfy a requirement. That is traditionally done before you come to MP&E, just to liberate some space in your schedule, so that'd be something I'd be looking at.
And also think for transfer students for BIN schools, that course is available online, so you could actually take that course before you got to campus.
I think, sorry, just to jump in, I think the idea of getting to know students who are in the major is a really good one. The studios are running 6 p.m. to 6 a.m. 7 days a week, and MP&E students are typically pretty open to having someone come in and just observe as a fly on the wall. That's a great way to get a sense of what is the dynamic, what does a session consist of, how does the producer work with the artist, how are the producer and engineer communicating, and just get a sense of the course workload that is involved in MP&E. The other thing is that's really jump-starting what you're going to be wanting to do, which is networking as much as possible, collaborating with as many different people, because that is really what leads to successful routes in the industry.
Absolutely.
Excellent. Thank you. Thank you very much. Is there anything else that you would want to tell us that I haven't asked you about today? Who wants to go first with that one?
So people usually want to know what art grads do when they get out, and one of the things about being in college that's really interesting, because we really don't know absolutely for sure what students will end up doing once they get out. So for example, one of the most famous alums of the music synthesis program is now playing drums for Paul McCartney. Who would have thunk?
Abe Laboriel Jr. by
Abe
name.
Laboriel, yeah, Abe Laboriel Jr. So,
I think he was a dual.
He was a dual major,
yeah.
MP&E, EPD.
Yeah, we have a lot of duals that do really well, and I'll amplify that point. It's a really potent program. Anybody know what the #1 song on the planet is right now today? And you're in a music school, and you don't know the #1 song on the planet? Rob Jaczko.
Why would it be Despacito?
Despacito, and Despacito was engineered by an EPD MP&E dual. That's right. So really, and he's been out not too long. He's done very well.
Excellent.
Just on rocket fuel. He was on rocket fuel when he was here. But some of our other alums, Richard Gould, we have somebody who's a sound designer, and he works with Randy Tom at Skywalker Sound. Richard Ludlow started a game audio sound design music company in Los Angeles, very successful. They just moved to a swank new location in the Hollywood Hills. Austin DeVries, we have a number of people working in the game industry, and this is really, for us, it's one of the real big career destinations, sound design for games, music for games. And so we have a number of people at Riot Games in Santa Monica, Austin DeVries, 2 others are there now. They actually come and visit us once a year and talk about what they're doing, meet with students and hang out. It's been a really good relationship. A couple years ago, we had a student named Darius Peterman, and when he was a senior, he was looking at an internship at Apple Computer, not the Apple Store. And so he interviewed for the internship, and Apple hired him to be on the sound team. And so we have 9 EPD alums working for Apple in Cupertino. We have a number of people at Isotope. Matthew Hines is a product manager for post-production products, and Jonathan Bailey is the CTO, Chief Technology Officer. He's an EPD alum. So we have people in post-production. We have people really in all aspects of music technology. And once again, I think we see the duals that are coming out from both our departments and duals coming out from writing majors. And EPD are doing very well.
Yeah. No, go ahead.
No, I was going to say, I know we're short on time. I'll blurt out a few names.
Yes, please.
The artist Charlie Puth, MP&E grad, was on fire as a student and now is a world-famous artist in his own right. Will Wells, dual major with film scoring, I believe, was working on Hamilton LMFAO and was playing with Imagine Dragons this year. Mixer Tony Maserati doing Beyonce and Black Eyed Peas, just monster mixer. Gus Borner from Argentina? Is that where
Yep, that's right. Yep.
Owns a massive post-production facility in Burbank, California called Igloo, and they just won the Academy Award for La La Land, the movie.
They have more Grammys and Latin Grammys along the wall. It's
He has to
pretty
keep building
amazing.
studios just to put his awards up.
And what's nice is his staff is almost entirely Berklee MP&E, and they have gone on to win, more recent alums have gone on to win Oscars and Grammys and Latin Grammys.
All of this is highlighted on our website. Dan is the shepherd of our Alumni All-Stars page, and there's also a searchable awards list, so the majority of the nearly 300 Grammys that Berklee College of Music has won have come from MP&E grads, and you could search that list, and it's a very impressive showing.
At one point, I'll amplify that, I think Dan brought up earlier, is that Berklee is really a place to get skills, but really what gets you going when you leave here are your connections, the networking that you do. And when you leave here, you go to Los Angeles and there's kind of the underground railroad to get in the industry. Basically, the people that you went to school with are the people that are going to help you get gigs, and they're going to help you build your career. So it's a really important thing to remember.
Absolutely.
Excellent. Well, let's give a round of applause to our panelists.
Thank you, Camille.
Yeah, thank
Thank you,
you.
Camille.
So special thanks to Rob Jaczko, Dan Thompson, and Michael Bierylo. Thank you for joining us to learn more about our music technology majors, and please have a nice day.
Thank you.
Thank you.